my dad suggested paint it black, paint it green, or paint it pink. He said, there's no way I'm gonna paint the car black. There's too many of those. I don't like green, and what grown man wants a pink Impala? And I knew how passionate he was about that. And so I made it my mission to seek out that color that was made back in the 1970s by my dad and a friend of his. I never seen the color, but there's a color that they made that was on a 1963 Impala. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out this color. We had 57 spray outs, and 57 was the closest. And when we got to 58, we knew we hit it on the head. We were able to show this color to some family members, and immediately when they saw it, they were overjoyed, like, oh my God, that's the color your dad always talked about. And I knew just in tears that we hit a home run, and that's how we wound up with it. And now I own a pink 64 named Concrete Rose. I have a 1964 Impala Super Sport. All the engraving is done by Crazy Cutting. Has 4 pumps, 8 batteries. Hydros are done by About That Life Hydraulics. Full chrome suspension. Has a 327 fully engraved engine. I have a custom interior done by R&R Designs. It's mixed with leather and suede. Has custom door panels with LED lighting on the top. Lower door panels with patterns and speaker pods. Has a custom center console with digital Alpine EQ. Has Pioneer stereo cup holder. My digital dash is actually custom made. It's not your typical digital dash that you just purchase. This is actually made with round digital gauges. So it gives the car a real sleek look. I also have I did a tilt column, which is chrome, beginning to be pretty popular in the lowrider world with these chrome tilt columns. I kept the original steering wheel because it's more of a sentimental thing with my father and I, so it has a nice pink steering wheel, a little bit of engraving just to kind of set the interior off. All the interior trims are actually engraved. The seat trims are engraved, all done by Crazy Cutting, and it gives it a wild look on the inside, still trying to maintain a subtle look on the outside. My mom is an immigrant from the Philippines. Her and my dad were actually pen pals. My mom worked at Clark's Air Force Base. My dad spent some time part of the Black Panthers group, and my dad, he knew that this was the woman that he wanted to marry, so he said, I'm coming to the Philippines to get you. And he went to the Philippines to ask parents for her hand, and they agreed, brought her back to the United States in 1974. Shortly after that, the family started. I have a younger brother and younger sister, and I don't think she knew what she was getting into in regards to the lowrider scene. In 1975, she was pregnant with myself. And in April of 1975, she was jumped by about 5 people. And that was something my father couldn't let go. And he felt like he let her down. So unfortunately, he found the people who did it, and he made decisions that would take him out of our lives for 31 years. And my brother was actually born while my father was gone. He got incarcerated in 1980. And my brother was born in July of 1980. So my father had to parent from a distance. While he was gone, and I remember in the very early ages, starting in 1982, he would send me letters. And in those letters, he would say how I would have to be the man of the house. But also in those letters, he also reminded me that the love that we had for cars. I remember being early age, 4 or 5, going to his car club meetings, seeing pictures. Even now, it still amazed me. But in those letters, he would take cars out of magazine and he would cut the tires and then tape them up into the car so it looked like lowriders. And he did that from maybe the young age of 6 or 7 till I was about 15, in 1990. And it was always something that we were gonna do. Growing up in South Central, you're actually growing up around 2 things that are quite popular. One being lowriding, and the other one being gangbanging. You really had no choice. And if you weren't gonna do that, then you weren't gonna be anybody. And my mom decided that she wanted to move us to hopefully a better area, which would be the San Fernando Valley. And being brought up around cars and seeing the gang life, I couldn't stray from either one. I knew I wanted to do the cars, but I was so attracted to the gang life. So at the age of 15, I joined the Crips in the San Fernando Valley. And it was difficult because having the same passion today that I have as a lowrider, that passion actually stems from being a gangbanger. So in a sense, it's almost like lowriding saved my life. because I knew I wasn't going to be around much longer. I had faced prison time multiple times. And if you can't take a step back from what you know is going to kill you, how are you ever going to move forward from what will possibly save your life? And I said, I have to take a step back from this. It was about 1992. My grandmother had passed and the family decided they were going to sell her house. So my dad called one day from prison and said, I want to get you a lowrider. You have to promise to stay in school, graduate. Unfortunately, when you give a child an extended amount of money to buy a car, it's not always the best decision. I went on and bought a 1984 Cadillac Coupe de Ville. I wrote him a letter and told him about it, sent him a picture. He was overjoyed. I think he just cared that I was able to continue on what he wanted to do. That's why this has always been even more of a passion of mine. In hindsight, he loved that first build, as bad as it was. And I don't mean bad, meaning good. It was in 1997, the Majestics opened their arms to me, and my attraction to the club stemmed from 1996, and what I saw was something that I always gravitated to, being a biracial individual, Hispanics and Blacks and Samoans, Caucasians, all in lowriders. And it wasn't about who was in the front of the line, who was in the back of the line. One thing I noticed was all the cars were equally clean, they're all badass, and they all had Majestic plaques. So when I got the invite, there was no way in the world I was gonna miss that opportunity. So Big John took my car home and he got my car running and took it to his house in Palmdale, Lancaster, and he got the car out in a matter of 5-6 months. I had my very first Majestic car. It was painted. Again, it wasn't the best paint job, but better than my very first paint job. And the Majestics opened their arms to me, and they made me feel like this is the group I wanted to belong to. And I've been there ever since 1997. In 2015, I debuted my very first Impala. It was about a 2-year build. A good friend of mine, Louis Ochoa, built the car from the bottom up. And building Impala is not easy. And my dad always told me that. So not listening to him, I took my own route. I built it. I was able to debut it in 2015. So I was going to a toy drive in Antioch, California, and the axle snapped at about 50 miles per hour. And the car swerved. I lost control of the car, hit an embankment. And the car launched 2 feet to the air, and I went straight into the retaining wall. And at that moment, I knew my life was over. I knew I was gonna die. And I remember turning in my seat and I said, God, I'm not ready. After I was able to get out the hospital, begin the healing process, one of the first things my dad said to me, after he asked if I was okay 100 times, he says, you gonna build another 64? I told him, of course. Fresh off my injuries, drove out to Utah, told my dad I'm going to go pick up a 64 Super Sport. And the first thing I told him was, Dad, I'm gonna paint this car the same color. He said, no. He said, you crazy. I said, I'm gonna paint this car yellow. And he says, why do you want to paint it that color? And I said, because, I said, Lowrider magazine said they wanted to do a centerfold on this, so I'm gonna give them what they want. Everybody loves this color combination of yellow and gray. And he says, no, that's bad juju. I didn't care what he said, I was gonna do it. So I just didn't tell him that. I went along with his ideas. He said, let's chrome the floorboards. Let's chrome the exhaust. Let's do this. So with this build I have now, a lot of the ideas are his. And that November, he got sick. And so his health started deteriorating. We didn't think much of it. We just said, he'll be able to shake it off. He's a strong man. And come February, he got rushed to the hospital. And so I knew something was up. I didn't stop the build. I told the painter, proceed, we're gonna get this done, because I wanted to please him. I wanted him to see this new build. Late February, the doctor said, we need to start maybe making preparations, because they said he had slipped into a coma and he was on a respirator. So I went to go see him and I'm talking to him. And I said, he's gonna pull out of this. There's no way he's gonna pull out of this. He's gonna be fine. And he did. When he did, I remember my wife feeding him. When he got done eating, he was just, how's the car? I said, it's good, Papa said, it's good. You're gonna like it. And he says, oh, okay. He says, what color are you gonna paint it? And I couldn't tell him I had already painted it yellow. He says, as soon as I get out of here, we need to get on that. I need you to bring it down here. So I said, okay, Dad, no problem. I told him, I said, all right, Pop, I said, I'm gonna go ahead and head back home. Kids got school tomorrow. I said, I'll be back Thursday when they transfer you to your next hospital. That Thursday, I got a phone call at 12:10. And they told me that, they said that his heart couldn't take it no more. And he passed away of heart failure. When I walked out that hospital room, the last thing he said to me was, when you come back, bring me pictures of my 4. I said, okay, Pop, I love you. The first thing he gave me in life was my love of cars. And the last thing he said to me was about our love for cars. So he never knew I painted it yellow. After my dad passed away, I lost complete motivation. I didn't want to build another Impala. I didn't want this one. Our plan was to always build a car together. And I didn't feel that I was honoring him by painting the car yellow and he not knowing about it. So a good friend of mine by the name of Z says, you're slacking. You need to build this car. And I said, I can't do it this color. He says, I'm gonna come get the car and we're gonna figure this out. So eventually it led to the story I told him about the 63 that my dad always spoke of. And he says, well, let's make it. Several months later, actually the following year, I was in New Mexico and it was a Lowrider magazine show, and I ran into the guys from Crazy Cutting, and they are an engraving finished product company, and they actually offered me a job. It says, but ultimately, man, we want to be able to do something for you. You do a lot for this lifestyle. They got with one of my closest friends in life, D-Mac of the Compton Majestics, my wife, Alex Rodriguez, and they conspired to do a mural inside the trunk as a tribute to my father. So in the mural, there's a picture of the last picture that my father and I took was at my 40th birthday. It was a surprise party that my members threw for me. The very first picture, my mom came from the Philippines, standing with my dad's 64, that's in the mural. But then the hardship of him being in prison for 31 years, there's a prison tower in the mural. His Riviera's in the mural. And then in the backdrop, there's a boat sailing on the water. And to me, that is the most significant part of that mural because one of his favorite songs is Sailing by Christopher Cross. And that song talks about how your mind is always free. I know he's free, and I know that we're still connected by that song. The song is so significant because he always said the reason why he loves that song is because he knew wherever we were, if that song was on, if we liked it and we listened to it, that was his connection to us, which was music. When the mural got done, my wife and D-Mac and everyone, they knew that that would be so significant. It's emotional at times. I just want to get in the car, turn on my dad's favorite song. I just want to ride. No destination, just feeling the movement of the car, just knowing that that was his vision. This is what he talked about when he told my mom and his mom that he wanted to be in the magazine with just the baddest car. I think about all those things. There's no feeling that it's impossible to describe. Overall, it's a tribute to him to utilize his ideas, his passions for the lifestyle. Even though he really didn't care too much for the way we do it now. He was a 70s lowrider, but there's no way I can describe it other than emotional. And that's whether I'm by myself or with my brothers, there's a love that is out this world. When I got with the Majestics, I was a very aggressive lowrider. There wasn't any day of the week that you would catch me driving my car or any picnic or function. And by doing so, they looked at me as maybe I should become a leader. After about 8 months in the San Fernando chapter, I became president, and I've maintained a president status since 1998 into the Majestics till now. In 2000 and 2011, I moved from San Fernando chapter as the president to Sacramento. That was the only time I actually stepped down from president because it was difficult to president a chapter from 350 miles away. So I did a fundraiser in 2015 to actually start my chapter. That was our start. We were going to start this Majestics chapter by doing a fundraiser, and so we did. With my ambition and just diehard passion for the Majestics, not just so much lowriding, but just for the Majestics. I think the members recognized that, and they were comfortable with me becoming the national president. It's a difficult role, but if you can showcase that you care about the community of the Majestics and not so much the individual in it, I think it'll take you a lot farther than what you want to be. You have to be a team player. Having 40 chapters across the world is a great deal to me. I've started some of those chapters internationally as well as here in the States. When you can go just about anywhere in the world and know that there's Majestics there, you know that you've done something right or the leaders before you have done something right. And I've been fortunate enough to follow the footsteps of good leaders and learn from their successes, learn from their failures, and ultimately put my own spin on it. And I think that's what makes Chinaman the majestic and lowrider that I am. If I'm in a position of leadership, I want to be in a position of leadership to make things better for all of us. Being in the San Fernando chapter for so many years, I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to give back. And again, I was an aggressive lowrider. I was the guy that was blocking traffic, three-wheeling the intersection, hopping, you name it. And as I got older now, being a father, your responsibility level changes. And one of the biggest things that I always commend lowriders on is we do these toy drives all throughout California, the lowrider community period across the United States. And that means a lot to me because I was one of those kids. One of my most sentimental memories is I received a huge fire truck as a kid. And it wasn't that my mom didn't love us, she just didn't have the means. So I wanted to give back to those same programs because I know what that kid feels. And I know what it's like to not have toys for Christmas. I know what it's like to actually have to go down to a program and for some stranger to hand you a toy. My name is Chinaman. I am a legal representative and I am a lowrider role model.